And then it just so happened that at the time I was going through some difficulties at work. And I wanted to take a break anyway. And my break was leading me to Kenya. Like, I wasn't gonna break in the UK where it's cold and depressing and rainy. I was gonna go Kenya for a few months. So met up with, he was my co-founder at the time, but met up with him.
Do you want to mention his name?
Alex Mativo. Shout out to Alex Mativo. Lol. So met up with him a number of times, got to know him, and he hadn't even started Duck yet. So he was working on a previous business of his called Nanasi. And what Nanasi did was they created point of sale systems for restaurants and small businesses, SMEs. And he worked with like really great businesses around Nairobi, all the like really cool like bougie restaurants you see. But then he hit the problem that many startup founders hit in Africa, I guess, is when you target SMEs, you have to always remind yourself that the margins will be very low, right? Because they themselves are struggling to get by. And if you take money out of their bottom line, how are you going to sustain yourself, right? And you spend so much time acquiring these SMEs that the CAC, the customer acquisition cost, does not make sense. You're charging $30 for a SaaS product that took you 2 months to sign. Is it going to cover your costs? It's not adding up, right? Unless you get lots of funding. That's the only way to kind of beat that bottom. Either you get lots of funding or you just don't take a salary for like 5 years plus, right? And that's a problem that a lot of founders have at the moment. So Nanasi for him wasn't making sense. And also his customers said to him, hey Alex, we love the fact that you're helping us like manage our systems with your points of sales, right? You're helping us integrate payments and all that great stuff. But actually, as a restaurant, I want to know how much to price my happy hour at. I want to know how much I should be charging my meals at. Can you give me that information? Then Alex was like, that's the face he made. He was like, Actually, that data sits within the point of sale. But he'd have to clean the data, transform it, put it on a dashboard, etc. So instead of doing it as an additional service, which by the way would take so much of his time and effort and need more money, he decided, screw this, I'm going to start Duck, because this is a need that all my customers, it's like it's a more painful problem than what I'm solving for them. You know, it doesn't make sense for me to keep solving for POSs. It makes sense for me to focus on the data. So me, being me with my process engineering mind, I was like, I know how you can map this out end to end. I know how you can deliver this. I know how you can, you know, essentially deliver this business operationally. I'm not a starter, I'm an operator. I like to always tell people. I started by accident, but it was very hard. But my expertise lies in operations because that was my corporate background. I know processes, I know how to standardize things, I know how to talk corporate and deliver corporate. And he decided actually, not only was he gonna do data, he wasn't gonna do SMEs. Why? They're not paying a lot of money.
You can't get consistent
income. And obviously we had just come off the back of the crazy funding post-pandemic high. So we were entering funding winter. So he said, you know, I'm not going to be able to raise enough either, which means I need customers that have a larger lifetime, a larger LTV. So he says, we're going to do enterprise. We're going to get all the big brands. And I remember looking at him like, you're crazy. How are we supposed to get Unilever? How are we supposed to get Quick Marts and you know, and a year later, here we are. And that's who we work with. We work with enterprise brands and enterprise supermarkets. And it is absolutely worth the time. It has its downsides, but I would honestly say that if we had taken the SME route, it would have been a struggle. So at Duck, what we do is we essentially bridge the data gap between FMCG brands and retailers. And what we saw was FMCG brands, once they give the retailers their goods, they have a blind spot as to how well they're performing in modern trade, right? And we've seen this problem be solved for general trade with Masoko, with Market Force, etc. But supermarkets have not yet been touched, and this is an area where they want to sell more in because it's stable income for them, right? But they don't know when they're in or out of stock, right? One thing I noticed when I came to Kenya and I was like shopping in supermarkets was, why is there so many sales reps like walking around? Why is there so many merchandisers walking around? You don't get that in the UK or the US, and it's because they're collecting data on what is actually physically on the shelf. Like they literally write down, I put this on the shelf, 5 have sold, 10 are left, right? And that's a very manual way of doing things. You can only have so many sales reps and so many merchandisers. So you can imagine how many blind spots you have in a day.
Yeah.
Quick Mart has 60 shops, Naivas has 110, Chandarana has another 50, right? As a brand, I'm stretched thin. I can only see what I'm selling depending on how many sales reps I hire, which is expensive. So we decided to solve this with software. Plug into supermarkets and give brands an idea of how well they're doing in supermarkets, number one. Give brands an idea of what's in and out of stock, which sounds really stupid, but this is a major problem.
It is.
They lose a ton of money just by not being on the shelves, because that is sales that are not happening. And then also another point which has not yet been put in the market is, your customer loyalty cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Alice shops every Tuesday to the Tuesday at Quick Mart, and she always buys this specific brand. She always buys a Tanqueray, let's say, right? Tanqueray would not know that. That sits within the supermarket. They have not yet given that access to brands. So we are actually giving access to brands to know who are their regular customers, who are their new customers, what are their untapped customer segments,
What are their habits?
How can they take their marketing plan, let's say, and apply data to be more specific and target the right people, or target people that they never have before. If I was to launch a new Tanqueray flavor using customer loyalty data, I know who I'm targeting. It might be Kenyan females between the ages of 25 to 27 who shop on a Wednesday because their basket size is larger on a Wednesday. And that's how granular we can get with the data.
And you know what, where I used to work, one of his core principles, David Manuel, is data is king. And I think a lot of people think that, because especially in the FMCG space, there's a lot of moving parts involved, and surely there's a lot of things that you're missing in the process. Especially in a country that has corruption allegations. I think this is a very good way for people to be able to track and save a lot of money and time. You've answered the question of what Duck does. Where do you guys see yourselves going?
We see ourselves as a data integrator. So we want to be able to plug into any point of sale system, whether it's banking and financial services, whether it's, let's say, apparel and clothing. We want to be an integrator. So as a brand, if I'm selling something, I have access to all of my outlets, right? And this is a step further than your typical kind of POS system, who can only show you what you sell on their platform. So we want to be like a third party to them. And we see a lot of value in it, even just kind of doing what we do every day. Being able to see the impact that your startup has to your customer is unmatched. It is literally the best feeling ever. So for us, we essentially want to transform how kind of data is used in the FMCG space, retail space, and then also expand that to other sectors as well.
Okay.